This is Neil Ratner Rock Doc here on WDST Radio Woodstock with another episode of This Week in Rock with support from Transcendental and my friend, the amazing dentist and rock star Bruce Milner. Visit Transcendental, his stunning new office at 2 Maverick Road on the corner of Maverick Road and Route 375. Singer, songwriter, and producer Rick James was born on February 1st, 1948. Rick began his musical career in his teenage years, playing in various bands around his hometown of Buffalo, New York, before entering the U.S. Naval Reserve to avoid being drafted into the Army. However, in 1964, he went AWOL and moved to Toronto, Canada. While there, James formed a band called the Minor Birds, which also included a young guitar player named Neil Young. And as Neil describes in an interview with Howard Stern, the two became good friends and even lived together for a while.
And the first band you formed was the Minor Birds. I still can't believe that you ended up in a band with Rick James as the lead singer. That was your band, right?
Yeah, Ricky was out there.
Rick James. And was he a bad influence on you? I'm talking about drug-wise and introducing you to that world.
I wouldn't say he was a bad influence. He was an influence.
Right.
Definitely. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And why didn't the band with Rick James work out? What happened?
It did work out.
It did.
It was a great band. It encountered some legal issues at one point when we went down to Motown. And we played at Motown, and we recorded down there, and that was great. And we had the, we were singing and playing. We played our tracks, and everything was nailed down in the room. The drums were nailed down where they were. The bass was right where it was. Nobody moved anything. So we jumped on and started playing, and they were fascinated that I was playing these kind of riffs, kind of Floyd Kramer guitar pulls and stuff in a kind of an R&B groove, And it was like they were looking at me like, "What's that?"
Right.
And but we played and we had a blast. Just really great.
Rick James must have been like 16 years old. He must have been a young kid, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we none of us were over 20 at that time.
That's unbelievable. And you guys lived together. You actually lived with Rick James during those years.
Yeah.
That had to be insane.
Wow.
Yeah, Ricky and I lived on Isabella Avenue in an apartment on the basement of the apartment building, and yeah, we did some wild things in there. It was all very hazy to me now.
Because
I'm glad that I made it through that stage. That was a little dicey.
James left the group after military authorities discovered his whereabouts. Rick was convicted of desertion, spending several months in jail before moving to California, where in the late 60s and early 70s, he started a variety of rock and funk groups. In 1981, James released his most successful album, Street Songs, which included hits such as Give It To Me Baby and Super Freak, the latter song becoming his biggest crossover single, mixing elements of funk, disco, rock, and new wave. By the early 1990s, Rick's career was hampered by his drug addiction, and he was embroiled in legal issues which eventually sent him to Folsom Prison. In 2004, James' career returned to mainstream pop culture after he appeared in an episode of Dave Chappelle's show. The segment involved a Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Stories sketch that satirized James' wild lifestyle and made famous Rick's line, "Cocaine is a hell of a drug." This resulted in renewed interest in his music, and James returned to perform on the road. However, Rick died later that year from heart failure at age 56. Okay, let's listen. Rick James and Super Freak.